go here. Bonin was on the play. Looks like a Scalding Tarn and a pass. See how quickly Chen wants to go. Do you think this is a matchup where Sneak and Show wants to go off early and often or try to pick your spot?
I just slam. Eventually they'll not have it. I think it's really difficult as the Sneak and Show player to continually have answer after answer. Or sorry, it's difficult for your opponent to have answer after answer. It's easy for you to have threat after threat. So at some point, they're going to brick, and they're not putting that much pressure on you. So I just go slam, 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 and hope for the best.
Yeah, so there's Ancient Tomb. Here's turn 2 Show and Tell. Bonin will respond with Accumulated Knowledge. It's good.
It's pretty good.
Gristlebrand versus Monastery Mentor. Only one of these cards is restricted in Vintage.
Wait, they restricted Mentor?
They did.
When?
It was like a year, maybe 2 ago.
Man,
Ooh.
I don't follow this enough. Terminus off the top could threaten to knock out that Gristlebrand, but a fresh draw 7 means this is going to be another big fatty coming pretty soon, more than likely. I don't even know if I fight over this if I'm Gregory Chen, based on the cards I've drawn for the turn.
Yeah, and also, because it's Terminus and not Swords to Plowshares, if Bonin casts this, then he loses his Mentor. He loses that pressure. He's just playing this game where he has to fight over stuff and doesn't have a way to win the game just yet. And there is going to be Force of Will pitching Brainstorm on that Terminus.
All right.
That Channel Fireball thing is a little token there, and there's some kind of Yu-Gi-Oh card off this Brainstorm.
Okay. I don't know which of our fellow commentators was down in the feature match area letting this slide, but come on.
Disagree with all of this. Let's get some Ronald Reagan tokens, Where is somebody did that in round 1. Daniel Fournier had Ronald Reagan at his merit wage. It was a lot better than this.
That's funny.
There we go.
It's funny because it's true.
Get those Brian Cobles in there.
Okay. Well, Chen here just looking for the probably some low petals and a sneak attack or something like that. If he's not careful, he might actually just die here. He's down to 3 life. That Ancient Tomb is threatening a good chunk of damage. He cannot tap the Ancient Tomb and also play Force of Will.
Yes.
So if he doesn't have a bunch of Lotus Petals, he's just going to be discarding a lot. And he can attack for 7 and gain 7 up to 10, but a Monastery Mentor and 2 tokens, it's not very hard to do 10 damage on the swing back.
Yeah, no kidding.
Yeah, I think we have made a mistake.
Yeah, honestly, I'm looking back at that Force of Will on the Terminus. May I just let that one go?
Yeah, just let it go, especially if your hand has any way, another Show and Tell or whatever, to put another creature back on the battlefield. That Force of Will is so important in a lot of spots, and Mentor means that it's really hard to attack.
Players trading some Brainstorms. Chen did not have the life to use Gristlebrand to get more cards. Here's a Lotus Petal. He's been kind of moving his hand around like he's looking at what he wants to discard.
I mean, he's looking at what he wants to play for the turn. He just has, 21 cards in hand or whatever. He's drawn, 7 on last turn, 7 on his own turn. He's looking for Show and Tell, Sneak Attack, Emrakul, are the 3 cards he's looking for. I think he has them. He's just knows he can't Force a Will, and he knows he's going to go to 1 if he does it. Or not.
Yeah, no action pre-combat in terms of getting additional power. It's just an attack with Gristlebrand.
Now, post-combat Show and Tell, put another Gristlebrand on the battlefield. You basically get Vigilance. That's not a bad place to be.
Yeah, don't mind that. That is what he's doing. So he went to 8 off of that and puts in Gristlebrand.
Yeah, and it gives him enough life so he can still Force a Will back if Brad Bonin's able to put up like a Jace the Mind Sculptor to potentially bounce and go for the lethal attack.
Yeah, Bonin put in an Arid Mesa, so now 4 lands on the battlefield. 5 power amongst as it stands, so Jace would be the prowess trigger to make this lethal. Chen now can Force of Will, though, and a lot of cards are in the hand.
Right. All right, and that Emrakul is going to be discarded and trigger. And now the thing here is, though, actually, Bonin actually gets priority back. The trigger from the Emrakul actually it doesn't shove them back into the end of turn, but it does give both players the ability to respond again. And Brad Bonin making good use out of that here, and he's going to cast a Brainstorm here with that Emrakul trigger on the stack, and that's going to give him another token. But Gregory Chen has the Pierce for the Brainstorm.
Yeah, that Pierce is, not super likely to be otherwise relevant. One card left in hand for Bonin.
Yeah, but if it's something like Swords of Plowshares and Chen just doesn't have a show and tell or a sneak attack off of all those cards, he's going to go up to 15 life, and then get hit in the face for 11. That's a lot.
Not ideal.
And then Jace the Mind Sculptor here could be lethal. It's like both players here just confirming life totals to make sure they got everything right. With Force of Will, Swords of Plowshares, Fetch Lands, Ancient Tomb, life totals change pretty regularly.
Ooh.
Whoa. Do we have it? Force of Will from Gregory. Chen stops the Council's Judgment. Get another token here off of that Monastery Mentor.
Ponder. 2 prowess triggers, rather, on these 5 creatures. Though it can be tough to get through a Gristlebrand. Bonin's going to count here, so life total is functionally 14, and it's only 12 with these other 4 monks.
Right. So that would effectively put Chen down to 2 life, though, and that means the Ancient Tomb is no longer active. And if Chen wants to attack and put Bonin down to 4 and gain 7 life, there's a chance he just dies to the following attack step because he's not winning this turn.
Yeah. Going to take a look at what this Ponder is before we make any decisions about attacking. Keeps them on top. I believe Preordain was drawn, and there's a Terminus floating. And he's looking like he wants to attack. Yeah, kind of doing and redoing the math.
All right, well, he is going to send the creatures in. The Gristlebrand is going to eat the Monastery Mentor, but still 6 creatures on the battlefield. That's going to send Chen down to 2. That effectively turns off Ancient Tomb. That effectively turns off Sneak Attack. And the gain 7 life is only going to put him up to 9. So a single instant or sorcery next turn is enough to get the job done.
Yeah, just another attack with Gristlebrand.
And them Earthquakes, man. Them Earthquakes.
It's been a rough day here at Syracuse. It's snowing. There's earthquakes. No wonder my flight was delayed.
Wow, Gregory Chen with kind of a desperation-looking draw 7 here after the attack. I think he's just looking again for that kind of Vigilance-esque Gristlebrand play with a show and tell. If he has show and tell Gristlebrand, and Brad Bonin doesn't play an instant or sorcery or non-creature card next turn, he could potentially steal this one, even though he's pretty far behind on the battlefield right now.
Yeah, capped off a Ponder, so you got to feel like Brad has something he likes. Here's a Brainstorm for Chen after a Lotus Petal, going down to 2 off this Gristlebrand, looking at a lot of cards, though. The Sneak and Show deck's very narrow-minded, right? It just does this combo thing. Doesn't really do much in the way of disrupting your opponent. Mostly just protects its combo.
Right. Yeah, I mean, there's a lot to be said about combo decks that get to play Force of Will. A lot of times you can use that kind of defensively against the combo decks that you're facing off against, but you can also use it proactively to protect your own combo. In this spot, though, he burned one on a Terminus, which I wasn't necessarily happy with, and then he ended up potentially just losing straight up to this Monastery Mentor.
There was a fetch down to 1. So firing off some more Ponders, but
this ain't it, Chief.
There's nothing there. He's just dead to these monks.
Yeah, and Brad Bonin did keep off of that Ponder, so he was going to be able to pump all those monk tokens. You have to imagine so at the very least. Gregory Chen, even though it looked like he was super far ahead, perhaps a misstep, perhaps just a bad judgment call, ultimately loses that game after drawing the majority of his deck with a Gristlebrand.
Yeah, that does not feel good. So players are going to look at their sideboards, and you at home can look at the sideboards using the Cardboard Live extension. So you want to look at what Gregory Chen is up to.
Brad Bonin just flashed a humility at the camera. Just lifted it straight up. Oh, that's gas.
So anyway, for those sideboard for Gregory Chen, 2 Abrade, 2 Arcane Artisan, 2 Blood Moon, 2 Grafdigger's Cage, 2 Defense Grid, 3 Leyline of Sanctity, and 2 Pyroclasm. Looks like some light options.
I like the Defense Grids. They're pretty good here, as well as the Arcane Artisans. It's not set in stone that your opponent has Containment Priest, but if they do, you need some way to get around it. And with only 2 copies of Omniscience in the main deck to kind of get around it, those 2 Arcane Artisans really help out a lot. And you don't really want to bring in something like a Braid, even though it can kill a monster or Swiftspear most of the time. It's just not really a card that I want.
Yeah, makes sense. Over on Bonin's side, we have 2 Surgical Extraction, a Spell Snare, 2 Flusterstorm. There's 2 Containment Priests, 2 Counterbalance, 2 Disenchant, 2 Vendilion Click, and 2 Humilities. So there's actually quite a bit more options for our control player here.
Yeah, so I think Humility is an easy one. It shuts off Show and Tell. If you put it into play off of Show and Tell, it shuts off Emrakul, Gristlebrand, things like that. So that one is a no-brainer. But Vendilion Click, I think, is a great way to kind of transition to a more aggressive slant on your control deck so that you can actually close games quickly without giving your opponent a lot of time, while also giving you the ability to filter away a mediocre card or take away one of your opponent's best cards out of their hand at instant speed. Counterbalance, I think, is not really great in this matchup because of how the spells kind of scale up. Gregory Chen has a reasonable amount of one-cost things, but it's not really going to do much here. And then Containment Priest, obviously a slam dunk in the matchup. Flusterstorm is quite good, but that's about it. Both players shuffling up here.
And Bonin has plenty of cards to clean up from the main deck. You saw he was looking at all 4 Swords of Plowshares coming out. Really wants to fight over the combo on the way down, not the creature on the battlefield.
Right. Yeah, I mean, you can leave in a couple of Swords of Plowshares. I wouldn't really leave in Terminus. But, I mean, I know a lot of Miracles players who would disagree with me. So, you know, I know that as someone who plays a lot of Sneak and Show, I don't really like it when my stuff gets hit with a Terminus. So.
Ooh, there's turn 2 Defense Grid for Chen, and that resolves.
That looks like, if I'm not mistaken, a turn 2 Containment Priest from Brad Bonin.
Yeah, got to main phase that, even though it has Flash because of that Defense Grid. And here's a Braid from Chen.
Yeah, and a heads-up sideboard call from Chen does bring in the Abrade, disagreed with me, and it paid off big time, knocking out that Containment Priest, one of those potent sideboard cards against the Sneak and Show deck.
Chen's gonna, or Bonin rather, is gonna use a Brainstorm, try to make this hand a little bit better. Gotta be worried that there's a combo incoming.
Yeah, that defense grid, the shields are basically down, and Brad Bonin doesn't really have anything that he can protect from. Since his deck doesn't have discard spells, he's gonna need something like a Disenchant, or he's gonna need Gregory Chen to actually cast Show and Tell, which allows him to put Humility on the battlefield.
So the play is going to be Counterbalance. This one can kind of get through Defense Grid. It's not a spell, but you need to find a 3 for this Show and Tell. That was some kind of invocation. Is that Spell Pierce?
I believe that's a Spell Pierce invocation. But a Humility comes down along with an Emrakul, so it kind of locks it down. So Bonin actually in the driver's seat here can play this Jace the Mind Sculptor aggressively, knock off that Emrakul, because the defense grid goes both ways. A lot of those hate cards that kind of punish your opponent for doing one thing or another are usually one-sided nowadays, but old school ones like defense grid, they're double-sided.
Yeah, and Chen just picks them up because blue-red, you can't do anything about an enchantment. You have to have some plan that wins, that it doesn't involve making a bunch of 8 and 15 mana 1/1